So let's try some examples based on what you guys just did in the notes. So let's take a look. I'm just going to move this down here. So the first one says write 35% as a fraction in simplest form. So you don't have to do this one. I want you to just watch. So from the notes, you take the percent and you write it over 100, and then you just simplify it. So I can divide 35 and 100 both by 5. So when I do that, I'm going to get my numerator is 7, my denominator is 20, so my answer is 7/20. So that means that 35% and 7/20 mean the same exact thing. Okay, let's try B. 100% as a fraction in simplest form. So you take your percent, you write it over 100, so 100 over 100 equals 1 whole. So this actually is just going to end up being a whole number, not a fraction. So 100% is actually equal to 1 whole. The last one, 174%. So you take your percent, write it over 100. This is going to be improper because the percent is bigger than 100. So 100 goes into 174 once. You'd have 74 left over 100. And now I got to simplify it. So I'm going to divide 74 and 100 both by 2 because they're both even numbers. And that's going to get me 1 for my whole number, 37 for my numerator, and half of 100, 100 divided by 2 is 50. That's in simplest form because 37 is prime. So 100, oh, this should be down here. So 174% is 1 and 37/50ths in simplest form. So I'm going to give you some of these to try now. All right, so I'm going to have you pause the video and try both of these. You're writing these percents as fractions. So step 1, write the percent over 100. Step 2, put it in simplest form. So pause and try these two on the back of your notes. Okay, now we're going to do it in the reverse order. So they're giving you a fraction and they want you to write it as a percent. So you have to make your denominator turn into 100. So whatever I would multiply my old denominator by to get 100, I'm going to multiply the numerator by. So in this case, 50 times 2 gives me 100. So I'm going to multiply the numerator by 2, which is 6. That equals 6%. Okay, so 3/50 is 6% when you write it as a fraction into a percent. So let me give you one of these to try. Okay, so I'm going to have you pause and do this one on the back of your notes. So you want the denominator to be 100. So figure out what you would multiply 20 by and multiply 13 by that. Then your numerator becomes your answer. So try this one. Here's one like the one on the notes. It says a drought affects 9 out of 12 Midwestern states. What percent of the Midwestern states are affected by the drought? So we're going to take the information that they gave us and write it as a fraction. So 9 out of 12. And now we want the denominator to be 100 because we're trying to make it a percent. So this is one of those where the the denominator doesn't go into 100 evenly. So in this case, you have to divide 9 divided by 12. Okay, so that means 9 is on the inside, 12 is on the outside. Obviously, 12 does not go into 9, so you have to add a decimal point and a few zeros. Bring the decimal up. 12 goes into 9 0 times. 12 goes into 90, let's see, 7 times, which is 84. Subtract, I get 6. Bring down a 0. 12 goes into 65 times. So that ends up zeroing out when I subtract. So that means that my decimal, my numerator here would be 0.75. And so what you do now, you can't have your decimal in a fraction, so you move it over to get rid of it. So in this case, we move it over twice, so it would be 75%. The other thing is you actually don't even have to write it as the fraction. Once you get your answer over here, you're always moving it over twice. So just move it over twice, and that would be your answer. So just to recap, the only reason why I couldn't do, why I had to do this long division is because 12 does not go into 100 evenly. So you do the numerator divided by the denominator. So the numerator goes on the inside, denominator on the outside, add a decimal point and a few zeros because you're going to get a decimal answer. Take your decimal point, move it 2 spots to the right. So 75%. So that means 9 out of 12 Midwestern states is 75% of those states. Okay, so I'm going to give you one to try by yourself. Okay, I'm going to have you try this one. So it says you delete 3 out of 16 pictures on your digital camera. What percent of the pictures did you delete? So you're going to start by writing 3 over 16, and you want your denominator to be 100. 16 does not go into 100 evenly, so you're going to have to do 3 divided by 16. Okay? You're going to get a decimal answer because you have to add a decimal point and a few zeros. So see if you can finish this one off. When you're done with your division, you have to move your decimal point 2 spots to the right to make it a percent. I believe this is a repeating decimal. It's going to go on forever. So stop as soon as you have 2 numbers on the top. Okay? So you can pause and finish off that one.